All right. Well, I hope everybody had a great holiday and Merry Christmas to all and to Happy Hanukkah, whatever else it is out there. Life's Co-Pilot is very excited to bring Scott MacLean here to us today because he is doing some really cool things. And it's a resource that is desperately needed for a lot of the seniors out there that are trying to downsize and go into assisted living or what have you. So, Scott, I want to introduce you. Scott is with Senior Life Property Solutions. So, would you explain to us who that is and what that is?
Sure, Jim, and happy holidays to you. I don't know about you, but I'm going to need to get on an exercise program pretty quickly after this is over. Um, we started Senior Life Property Solutions about a year and a half ago to solve a specific problem. Now, I've been in the senior living world for about 30 years, helping families transition loved ones into senior living. And sitting across the table from the families who are often very stressed out trying to take care of mom's needs, when the topic of what do you plan to do with mom's house and all her stuff comes up, you'd see this deer in the headlights look in their eyes, and in some case they'd start pulling out their hair because they didn't have an answer to that. They know they needed to sell the house, but in many cases, the stress of thinking of preparing it, repairing it, putting it on the market, and going through that whole process just was a little overwhelming to them. And then what to do with all the accumulated stuff over 40 years would often kind of put them over the top. And so I got to thinking, there's got to be a way to be able to help these people. So that was the genesis of Senior Life Property Solutions. And so in that time period, we switched over to the other side where I'm now helping the families with the real estate part of that transaction.
Well, that's very good. I mean, and we've done work together. You had us come in and help you get all the stuff out of someone's house, and that was a great experience. I mean, and here was a lady who had no family. She had a neighbor that was helping her, but without somebody like yourself to help her, she would have really had a great deal of challenge making this transition. And she definitely, from a safety and a lifestyle standpoint, needed to make that change. And it was a pleasure to do so. And you actually helped compensate her for the move.
Yeah, I mean, we seek to make it a seamless transition where we coordinate things for them, and we even take care of the partnering with companies like Caring Transitions to help with the details of the move. We kind of focus on the real estate side of it, the property itself, and help them navigate that process. But we bring in other partners such as Caring Transitions to help with the details of what to do with all the stuff.
Well, I think that a lot of families, I know myself, I was the consumer side of this for decades because I'm the only one that stayed in state, so I had to downsize my in-laws, my parents, my uncle, and one of the things you're looking at is from either a personal time commitment requirements to get these things done or financial, which either way, and I guess both of them kind of tie in together. It is an overwhelming process. And with, like, for instance, one we just did, her stuff, basically between you helping her and her stuff, it basically took care of all the expenses and got everything done for her, which was and in her case, we ended up unpacking her and resettling her and decorating her place. And she moved more things into a small one-bedroom senior living apartment I've ever seen, but we still got it in there safe and the way where she wanted it. So that was important. But these things are really taking a lot of pressure off people's shoulders as they're going through this process.
Yeah, that's right. Our whole goal is to reduce the stress on both the incoming resident, and the family. And let's face it, the family is saddled with the bulk of those duties and responsibilities. but it's also very stressful for the resident. Obviously, they're going through a big emotional change in, giving up their, their home and perhaps where they raise their kids and all the memories and so forth. So it's emotionally draining on them as well. And to just be able to take off some of the stress and smooth out that process and make it easy on them is a delight. That's kind of the whole purpose for us doing this.
Well, you were in the senior living community, so you had the incoming individuals coming in after they had dealt with this or whatever. I don't know. You could probably tell me if I'm off on this, but from what I have heard and what I have read, that move for that senior from their longtime home is more stressful than a death in the immediate family, and so a lot of people really have a really tough time with that. And that's why, it's why I love what I do is what you're doing is to start taking as much of that stress off as possible and making that transition to where they're not going into that I guess depression is very heavily involved. I know I that a family member we had to deal with that on, so it was before I was in the industry, and we set him up for failure, didn't realize it because we didn't, put everything away and didn't have everything all buttoned up for him. And he went into a massive depression because of the move from, what appeared to me an apartment that looked about the same, so, but anyway.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely an emotional, traumatic experience. And, we don't claim to solve every issue in every in every situation, but because of our connections in the senior services space, we're able to connect them with other professionals that can help with them with various aspects of their life and the things that they're needing help with. It could be everything from an elder law attorney to a financial planner or a handyman, or so again, in your case, someone to help with the details of the move. We try to help them with that process by connecting them with the right resources.
So tell me what the process is like for someone when they make the phone call to you, or how do they find you, or all those kind of things.
Yeah, so we network a lot with senior living admissions professionals, and so oftentimes if they're talking with a client who's either already decided to move in or maybe they're stuck and they're hesitant to make a decision to move, and even though they may need to move, but until they deal with this issue of the house and the stuff, oftentimes they're paralyzed to make a decision. And so oftentimes the senior living professional will refer the family and the resident to us. So we'll get a call from them. And so we'll have an initial conversation and then offer to come out and visit them in person. I'm the owner. This is not a big company or a franchise or anything. And so they'll get a personal visit from the owner, and we'll just talk about their story, talk about their situation, find out what they're up against and what their preferences and needs are, and then we'll take it from there. Oftentimes, we typically will do some backroom research, if you will, to run some numbers for them to help them navigate some of their options. It could be that their house is in very good shape and they could feasibly just clean it up and list it on the market with a realtor. Now we're not realtors, and so we'll bring in an independent realtor to run the numbers and do an assessment of what they feel the house might sell for. We'll run those numbers on what their costs and commissions and what their net proceeds might look like at the end of that. And then right next to that, we'll run our numbers on what our cash offer might look like, and kind of go through the pros and cons of each of those scenarios. And then obviously the decision is up to them which way they go. And then we'll hand them off. If they've chosen a different route, we'll hand them off and shake their hand and wish them well. And obviously if they choose what we call the easy button, then we start the process of getting them to the closing table and getting the cash in their hands as quickly as possible.
Well, I know from my own experience with my mom, for instance, we had a situation to where she was land rich and cash poor. And so going into assisted living, the monthly strokes were significantly, 6 times what her Social Security was. Okay.
Yeah.
And she didn't have a big nest egg, but she sat on a lot of real estate. Okay.
Mhm.
So it was a real challenge while we were trying to get that sold and going through that whole process of covering that nut until, now she's fine. But there was a window there. Whereas with something like you, how fast could something like that take place?
Yeah, we've had several situations where that was the case, where somebody they needed to move into assisted living. They had, picked one out and they were ready to go, but they needed the cash to cash out the equity from their house in order to pay for it, even from the start, even from the get-go. And in one case, we even gave, I guess, a loan, you might say, up front to help them with their moving costs, and then reimbursed ourselves once the house was closed on. But yeah, that process can take as little as 2 weeks to close and get the money in their pockets. But we can also do it in a little slower process if depending on what their needs are. So we can tailor the timing of the closing to whatever their needs and preferences might be.
Okay, well, I mean, it's a nice option, especially as we're in a market right now that has become more challenging with the higher interest rates and things like that. We're seeing some parts of the market slowing down significantly from what it was. For a while there, you could just put a sign in the yard and hide behind a tree as people are throwing offers at you. That's not quite the case at the moment, So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, when I first started this venture, it was during 22. It was during the hyper sellers market of 22, where you could put anything on the market in any condition. You'd have people falling over themselves, to make offers. Unfortunately, that's no longer the case for sellers anyway. And so, a house could sit on the market now in, even a house in great shape and stage and everything could be on the market for 60 days or over. But that kind of goes back to what is, and you're the real estate expert, kind of what is normal.
Correct.
We're getting back to kind of a normal real estate market, but if the house is not in great shape and it's not been, kept in tip-top condition or staged or, all the repairs necessary made or updated, it could take a lot longer. And so that adds to the stress again of the family and the resident as to how long it's going to take, being available for showings and inspections, and it just adds to the stress of the uncertainty of when this is going to come to a close and what it's eventually going to sell for, because the longer it takes to sell, the more you typically have to come down on your price. And again, it just adds to the stress that they're already in dealing with mom's transition.
Well, one thing you see a lot too in carrying transition. I mean, most of the homes that I'm in are a senior that's downsizing in one way or another. Okay, and most of them, not all, but most of them have not had any updates done to them in decades. And so the kitchens, the bathrooms are not what the market wants today. So, one of the options that the family has is to go in and spend a ton of money and time in fixing the house up to get it ready to be on the prime dollar for the marketplace, or they can sell it as is, but that's not as easy sometimes, especially when the market's cool a little bit. But that's you're perfectly content with an as is, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we'll buy a house in any condition because in most cases our plan would be to rehab it and update it and then resell it. So that's kind of our primary mode, although we do other strategies as well. But yeah, so if a house is updated or not been updated in 40 or 50 years, that's just fine with us.
It's
So
actually kind of your sweet spot, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
that's what I
yep.
thought. I mean,
I mean,
and that
we've helped people. We've bought houses from people that were virtually uninhabitable, and it was those are sad situations that people find themselves living in unsafe, unsanitary conditions, and those are the ones that we are most satisfied with being able to come in and kind of help them out of a pickle, because in many cases they don't have close family to be able to help them, and so they kind of get into this circling the drain type of situation where they're just not able to overcome all the all the I don't know what I'm trying to say, the all of the negative effects that hit them by living in those conditions.
oh yeah, I mean, we'll be in a lot of places that are just totally unhealthy. They and these are they may surface wise look good, but then you get underneath things and you start finding what's going on. And what's happened is, I think a lot of times they're older, they're not as healthy, they're out of they're on a fixed income, so things just kind of get pushed aside. And then after years of that, it becomes really problematic, and they're not healthy being in that environment. So
Mm-hmm.
so it's good to be able to get that resolved and taken care of for people. So, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
something a traditional realtor is in their strength usually. So, so
No, that's not typically one that a realtor is real excited about.
unless they specialize with investors or what have you, so now tell me, do you work with realtors as well? Do you look for them to help find you procure opportunities, or
Yeah, we sure do. We're not tied in with any one realtor, and so as I said before, oftentimes we'll bring in a realtor to kind of run the numbers parallel to us, and to give the customer some options to consider. And again, depending on the condition of the house and the market, it may be that they could do better by going that route, and not incur a whole lot of extra costs in repairs and so forth. Um, Ultimately, there's trade-offs to everything, and so even though in those scenarios they could make they could the proceeds could be more in their pocket at the end of the day, um, the trade-off might be taking more time, more stress, having to put more money in on the front end, and the uncertainty of it. And so with us, we would be buying it at a discount. And so that's the trade-off, is they wouldn't bring in as much into their pocket, but the benefit to them with our approach, as I said, is it's the easy button.
well,
um,
yeah, and I mean, you're right. There is a trade-off in everything, but it's one of the situations is, if you're going to go in and invest in fixing up the house or doing the things like that, unless you have someone guiding you what is the current thing that people want, you could spend money and not receive, or you not recoup it. Okay, you might be going in the hole on your renovations if you don't know how to do it properly or what have you, or don't have the contractors lined up that can do that. So you almost need to get somebody to help you general contract it. If you don't know what you're doing, then you
oh
have no,
yeah,
you know.
and even if you do know, um, the industry averages are, as far as how much you'll recoup from your investment of updates, is about 65%. So if you spend $30,000, you're not going to get updating the house, you're not going to get that $30,000 back in your pocket. It might help the house sell quicker, um, but you're generally not going to recoup all of the money you put into those updates.
Well, so tell me, you've done several of these. What kind of can you tell us some stories maybe that some people can relate to of what you've run into, how you solve some people's problems, or
Yeah, sure. You know, you might think that um, our typical scenario is a house that is, very much in repair or in need of repair, and you might call it, just a junker, as they might say. And though we do those, oftentimes the house it's houses that are still in pretty good shape. In fact, I had one, I guess it was a year ago, right now, that this woman had put in about $30,000 into updating her house, little 3-bedroom ranch, and she's independent, still drives and cooks and so forth, but she was just wanting a more social, convenient setting to live in. So she looked around at some West Side retirement communities and chose one, and then put her house on the market and thought it was going to sell right away. And it came right when the interest rates spiked, that the fall of last year. And again, she thought she could get more for the house because she put $30,000 into it, and she priced it way too high, and it just ended up staying on the market for 3 months and didn't get one offer. And so she got very discouraged, took it off the house, canceled her, her reservation at the senior community. And then after the holidays and after she thought she was going to just put it on the market again in the spring and try it again. And that's when the senior community referred her to us to come and take a look at it for her. So we brought in a realtor and kind of gave our side by side scenario. And I thought for sure she's going to go with, going to choose to sell it conventionally through the realtor. But because of the negative experience she had a few months before, she was just done, and she wanted to get into the new place, didn't want to wait, didn't want that uncertainty. And so she went with our offer. So we essentially, bought an already rehabbed house. So we were able to give her a good strong offer, because we knew we weren't going to have to put a lot of money into it. So essentially, we just kind of took that burden off of her, paid for her move to get into the new place, and she was happy as a clam because she was free from that responsibility and didn't have to go through that stress and uncertainty. She knew she wasn't going to get as much in her pocket from that the options there, but again, she weighed her options and considered the convenience and the speed and the peace of mind that she would get through our option. And so that worked out really well for her.
well, what you're doing is becoming more and more mainstream as far as the real estate model, because you've got companies like Open Door, and I could name off blue million other ones, where you can go online, they'll buy your house, right there. I went on and put mine on Open Door just to see what they would, I was just curious what they would, and so I get emails constantly with the new updated offers and things like that. Well, they work the same as you in the fact that they are, there's going to discount, and then they discount further for potential repairs and all kinds of stuff that they do, which is fine. A lot of people like that easy button approach, but they're dealing with somebody that's in Seattle on a keyboard, as
Yeah.
opposed to you walking into their house, you getting involved in their story, and you figuring out ways that you can help them with all the different moving parts, which they're not going to get from somebody on a keyboard in Seattle. So
Yeah, yeah. In some ways, we are similar to those, and it caused a little concern, starting this business, knowing that there were more and more of those what they call them iBuyers
right.
out there, that you can just go on the internet and punch a few buttons and have a cash offer, at your fingertips. But no, being in this space, being in this business, and working with seniors and their families for as long as I have, I know that what's more important to them than the speed and the convenience is the personal touch and having somebody hold their hand through the process. And that's what we pride ourselves in, is the service aspect, and the guiding them step by step through the whole process. There's some who are very, very tech savvy, and their families, the kids are used to buying things and selling things online, and so in those cases, perhaps that is a good choice for them. But more times than not, they appreciate the local guy, the personal touch, somebody who has been referred to them by someone they trust and is going to be there and hold their hand through the whole process till the end. So that's
Yeah, I think that becomes the human side. They always, back in the 80s, there was a great book called Megatrends by John Naisbitt, and it said the more high tech we get, the more high touch we need to become.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about there. So,
Yeah. So, we don't necessarily guarantee that we are going to always be the highest offer, the best offer, the most money in their pocket at the end of the day. But we do guarantee our service and our personalized touch. And if, at the end of the day, that gives them more peace of mind, then it's worth it to them.
So, what was probably your most challenging ones that was able to resolve?
Probably the most challenging one was where we got a call. We get referrals from placement agencies. These are senior professionals who help guide seniors into an appropriate assisted living type setting. So we got a call from one of them who was working with a client who was needing to move for health reasons, and their house had deteriorated to where they needed to sell it, but it was getting ready to go into foreclosure because they hadn't been able to keep up with the payments. So they were in a real pickle, and they were not real confident that the house was worth as much as they owed on it. So in other words, they were fearful that they were upside down, and so they asked us for help. So we brought in some extra expertise on that, and we're able to kind of bail them out and make things whole with them to where they didn't have to bring money to the closing table. And so it worked out for everybody, and they didn't have to lose the house to foreclosure. They didn't pull in any money from it, but we were at least able to make them break even with the mortgage company.
Yeah, that's a big step. I mean, now I don't know if you use like a short sale situation, or did you go into that, or
not in this case?
Okay, there's here if you run into that, there is there are realtors that specialize in this. Okay, that I have to know some, so I'm calling up, but they work with the banks in a short sale situation where they get the banks to accept an offer lower than what they're owed, and they can wipe it clean. But you have to have somebody who knows what they're doing, or that debt can accumulate behind it. It's not cut and dry. You need someone that actually knows how to do it. So but anyway, just throwing that out there. But
I'll know who to call when I run into that situation next, Jim.
Okay, well, that's fine. I don't know how to do it, but I know people who do. How's that?
You can connect me with somebody then.
Yeah. So, but it is a back door that is good to know about. So. But
yeah, we're learning more and more, about creative, options to help people who are truly in a pickle. And so that's something, you asked about, working with realtors. We are very appreciative of what realtors do. In some ways we compete, but in other ways we really are offering compatible alternatives. And ultimately, we want what's best for the customer, what's best for the family. And so we don't want to offer them just, a one size fits all type of approach, but to let them, give them a good understanding of several options that are viable options. And if that means bringing in realtors who are experts in the conventional way of selling a house, then that's certainly what we want to do. And we want to learn from them as well, to find out what some of these other creative solutions might be, like you said, the short sale.
Well, in this video, our database has a lot of realtors in it, so
Does it?
there's a good chance they'll see it. If it's a realtor, they've got a listing with a client that kind of fits your profile that needs a quick sale, should they call you, or is that
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that's what. Yeah. So I was
Yeah,
gonna say this.
we have
I'm losing.
of real estate investor partners. We have a almost an unlimited amount of resources to tap into to buy homes, as many as come across our desk.
We're having some connection problems, but I picked up that you've got an investor group behind you that you really kind of have an unlimited amount of numbers you could do. Is that correct?
Yes, we have partners, local investors that we have relationships with, and so if our company's resources are tapped because we have 3 or 4 houses out there that are in the process of transactions, then we have other investor partners that we can bring in to help solve those problems for our new clients.
So in other words, you don't go dark whenever you have your inventory full. You still can keep helping people.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Well, I definitely make sure that some of my realtor buddies know about you, because that could be a nice resource for them as well.
Sure.
For you got somebody that needs to get into it, their house done quickly or what have you. So what other things would you like to make sure people know about?
Um, I would just say that, again, our obviously we're in business, and so we've got to keep the lights on and so forth. But our first and foremost, we're advocates for the seniors, and so just to even if a person is unsure if they or somebody that they're considering referring to us, if even if there's a question as to whether this is a perfect fit or not, we're happy to talk to them. There's no cost or obligation, to have a conversation. And actually, I should mention this, is that there's no cost to any of the services that we provide to folks. The education, the options, running the numbers, all of those things are done as complimentary service for our customers. Any money that we make from a transaction is on the back end, after we acquire a property and then fix it up and resell it. That's where we make our dollars. So again, there's never any cost or commissions or obligation on the side of the client. So we're happy to have those conversations with them and see if it's a good fit for them.
Are there houses that are not fits for you, as far as maybe it's too big, maybe it's what kind of a range and what kind of an area do you work in?
Not really. Haven't run into one yet that
Okay.
we could help, again, either through ourselves or through our network of other investors. So, like right now, I was referred to a woman in Anderson, about an hour away. And so that is not typically an area that my partner and I invest in. But I know other investors, local investors here who love Anderson, and they have rental properties up there and so forth. So we're connecting them with some other investors who for whom it's a great fit. So even when we run into situations that aren't a perfect fit or a great fit for us to buy a house, we can find a resource for them that would be a good fit.
Well, Scott, I appreciate this. I mean, I think that this is something that is a service that people need to be aware of. It may not be the solution for everyone. And I always say, carrying transitions, we're not the solution for everyone, and it's, but like you, we have to come out. I won't even give somebody any kind of an idea what it's going to cost until I go see their place, because I'm not even sure what I'm going to recommend for them. I need to see what their situation is, what they want to do, what their goals are, and then we can tailor make something. It kind of sounds
Yeah.
like the same. We're in different spots in that same house, but doing the same things.
Yeah.
I can't give a one size fits all answer, because I've never seen two sizes that were the same. So
Yeah, every situation's unique, and so being able to put your eyes on it and talk to the family face to face and find out their story and what they're faced with, what their challenges are, what their preferences are, then we go from there to help tailor make it to their needs.
well, and I know the one that we did together, that particular client, it took quite a while for you to get it closed. They kept doing things in the process. So I mean, I know, so you can do it in whatever that person's timeline is. So whatever works between the two of you, I suppose. So
Yeah, they were unable to get a payoff statement or dollar amount from their current mortgage holder. It was just a kind of a crazy situation where the mortgage company was just being stubborn with them in giving them their payoff amount. So it just kept getting delayed, and we were able to flex with it,
yeah.
just.
It was a beautiful house. So it was not one that was run down at all. It was, and we needed, touches up, but it was a pretty house.
Yeah, I think we only put about 10 or 15,000 into it, and
Yeah.
it's now back on the market. If anyone's interested in a house
Keystone of the Crossing. Yeah.
up on Lake Clearwater, right
Yeah.
in the hub of Indianapolis, to be able to be on a lake with a dock, with a slip of your own for your own boat. Let me know.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. But anyway, so that's great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to make sure everybody gets to hear before we get off of here? Or?
No, I mean, happy holidays to everyone. Merry Christmas, and we look forward to serving the community as their needs come up.
Well, thank you so much for being on here with me on Boxing Day. So I guess it seemed appropriate because we move people and you help get people moved. So we need boxes, right? So anyway, so and I look forward to working with you again. So we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
All righty, bye bye.
Take care.